Aistriú iver a trocha hain fáiltearás, really classic format of Aistriú. Today's 6 sentences, each one getting a bit more difficult. Going to get straight into it. Here they are. Again, just wait for me to go through them, point out if there's any one or two specific bits that are important to keep in mind before pausing and having a go at them yourselves. It wasn't that important for us. Do people do any work at all? Don't worry, I won't have broken it. So that's the perfect tense. It's not normal future tense, but the future perfect. Are your friends from Kilkenny? So much money is spent with the Siri here, so with the passive. So much money is spent on things that aren't needed. And finally, number 6, the most difficult one for most people, although might not be much more difficult than number 5. What will the problem be at the end of the winter? What will the problem be at the end of the winter? So as always, on Aistriú, feel free to pause, take your time, go through each one, go to Fuckler.ie or your physical dictionary or your notes or previous lessons, whatever it might be. Ask a friend if you know someone who speaks Irish. Say, this guy's kind of made me run into this concept. I don't really understand this, the idea of a feminine noun there, maybe taking a H somewhere, the idea of the past tense and an coming in somewhere in the present tense questions or whatever it might be, and try and make yourself run into these things and then learn them rather than just kind of running into them and going, oh, I don't know if that needs an error or a shave. Well, I'll just watch the breakdown and see. Try, half the idea here. Okay, you learn stuff from the breakdown, but you learn even more from going into it yourself and trying and then figuring it out through your own experience, what works and what doesn't work and what you know and what you don't know as well. So when you're ready, we'll go through them one by one. I'll try and bring up as many alternative translations as I can if I do feel like there, although today it's pretty set in terms of these 6 sentences. There's not too much variation you could have within them. Ibrahim, which in English was, it wasn't too important for us. It wasn't too important for us. Is ní raibh sé róthabhachtach dúin. Ní raibh sé róthabhachtach dúin. So what do we have there? Again, this is the easiest one. So for most people, this wouldn't have been too tricky. But again, if you're a bit of a beginner and you're only in your first few months of learning or relearning Irish, this will probably be tricky. So that's absolutely fine. Main thing is, again, the end of each episode or show here on the membership on Patreon, you feel like you've learned 3 or 4 things and you've made some sort of progress, regardless of how much or how little that might be, or regardless of what level you're at. So it wasn't ní raibh sé. Why wouldn't we have something like near XA or near A, blah, blah, blah? Why wouldn't we have the copula? In other words, and again, if I'm mentioning these terms throughout the video and you're not sure of them, head up to the glossary and look at the videos we've done on the copula, the passive, the conditional doesn't come up today, but whatever it might be as well. Okay, I'm not going to go through the explanation for each one right here, but we're going to have ní raibh sé for it wasn't, because we don't have a noun afterwards. We're not saying it wasn't a book, it wasn't a person, it wasn't a show. But we're just having róthabhachtach, which is a non-noun, it's an adjective, so therefore we can use the normal be verb. Okay, tá, so past tense V, past tense negative, ní raibh, one of your regulars, ní raibh sé. And then 2 important, róthabhachtach, so ró forcing the H on tábhachtach, and finally dún. So remember the big 5, egg, air, du, le, and O, we want to know them off by heart. So if I say to you, for us or to us, it's going to be dún. If I say with us, it's going to be lin. If I say with them, it's going to be lo, and so on. They come up all the time. So it wasn't too important for us. Ní raibh sé róthabhachtach dún. Ever though, in English, do people do any work at all? Do people do any work at all? And translation for this is going to be an dhéanann daoine aon obair ar chorbe. An dhéanann daoine aon obair ar chorbe. You could also have ar bith instead of ar chorbe. Okay, but ar chorbe tends to be used a bit more, but both are absolutely fine. It's not many other really translations you could use there. So let's break it down. In English, sometimes with the verb do can be tricky because we use the verb do in English as, let's say, a help verb performing questions. Do you write? Do you eat? Do you blah, blah, blah? So don't get caught out there. But here it's a bit trickier because you actually have the verb to do as well. So that's why it's do people do any work. So all we're going to do in Irish for those questions, once it's not in the past tense, is put an on beforehand, and that's going to force an onto the verb. So people do any work, or you can say any in that case in English if it's just a statement. So let's say people do work, Jane and Dini upper. So all I'm doing is adding an on before, and that forces an so that's Onion and Dini upper, or in this case, Onion and Dini and upper. Two people do any work. Again, present tense, and want to know my regulars like that, it's going to be a big help to you. And this is why glance card is so important. Again, there's another video up in the glossary, up in the pinned post on the glance card and how to use it and its importance. So on yin dini ein upper, and then herbe for at all. So again, we have a few things here such as ein for any and herbe at all, which like in English can only be used in the negative or in questions. Again, a lot of this stuff you're used to in English, but you wouldn't even know a lot of the time. So let's say I can say I didn't do any work at all. Did you do any work at all? But I can't say I did any work at all. It doesn't make sense. Moron is another good one, kind of meaning much. Let's say in English, same thing there. In English, I can say I didn't do much. Did you do much? But I can't say I did much. So it only works in negative and questions, doesn't work in the positive. So a few terms there as well. Onion, dini, ein ober, herbe or erbe for at all. If 3, don't worry, I won't have broken it. Don't worry, I won't have broken it. So I will not have broken it. So firstly, don't worry is nabi borha. Nice little set phrase you can use. Nabi borha, ni vaishe brishta agam. Ni vaishe brishta agam. Okay, nabi borha ni vaishe brishta agam. So again, let's just tackle that first bit first for don't worry. That's the imperative. So I'm just going to use the root of the verb. Sometimes with the irregulars can be quite tricky to remember what is the root of the verb. So another example of where the glance card comes in really handy. So going to use be there. Even if it's negative, all I do is put a na before it. I don't need to worry about adding a H or anything. That's the nice thing about the imperative. If I'm saying it to one person, to you watching, if I'm saying do the task, whatever, Jane on task. If I'm saying work more, Ibri ní smó. If I'm saying say that to me again, aber é sin lum oris. So I'm using the root. But again, something like say, because it's dort and dare he, can be tough to remember what the actual root is with those irregulars, because often we're not using the root at all. So another good example is the verb be. Okay, vi and the rao in the past tha nil, but we don't really use be. It's not really to be seen anywhere there. So that's the root, and that's why, again, a glance card is written nice and clear. So we can use that, put the na before it for negative. So na be, remember with plural, if I was saying to a group of people, even if it's just two, so two or more, you'll hear this in classrooms a lot of the time. In Gaeilge schools, a teacher saying to her class, Biagi Kyun. So I'm just using the G I father if I'm talking to a group of people, but it's the same idea. Jainigi on upper. Okay, do the work. Ye do the work. So in this case, nabi borhead, don't worry, which is a nice little phrase, can be used the same way as it is in English. Don't worry about it. Nabi borhead. Ni vaishe brishtagam. So remember with these ones, and again, it's another video on the perfect tense up in the glossary, looking at the idea of thought and upward saying tagam. A lot of talk about work today. I feel like an old man saying the young generation don't work enough or something, but it's just easy stuff to remember, do and work and common words and common verbs. Maybe shows where my mind is nowadays. But tá number 10 tagam as our base sentence. So here I won't, so I will not, in other words. So that is future negative. So we're changing tá to ní vai. Instead of an upper, it's ish. So it's she. I'm going to talk about why it's not a in a minute. Some people might have said ní vai a brish tagam. Talk about that in a sec. Brishta instead of jainta, and then agam doesn't change. If it was they won't have broken it, then it would be ní vai sé brishta aku or whatever other person, or for naming. My father won't have broken it, then it'll be egg matter or egg whoever it is. So why is it not ní vai a brishta? This is a mistake I see a lot. So let's just take a simpler example for a minute. So tá number 10 tagam, let's say I've done it. I've done it, okay? So tá sé 10 tagam would be the translation. But a lot of people think, hold on, I saw it, honig me a. Honig me a. So I saw it, the it isn't doing any action, it's an object, we say. So therefore, it's a instead of she. You know, honig she, it saw, but honig me a, I saw it. So same here, surely. Again, I won't have broken it, or in our example that we're taking, for the minute I have done it. I have done it. The it isn't doing the action, but it's not doing the action in English. But again, how do we phrase these things in Irish? To go back to our base example. Tá number 10 tagam. Okay, if we're writing that down in English, that's I have done the work. But really, what's it mean? Tá number, the work is, and then 10 ta agam, done at me. The work is done at me. In other words, I have done the work. It's the same thing again with the she or with the it, let's say, because we don't know if it's she or a yet. So tá it done at me. So it is, so the it is doing an action here. It's the same as tá sé brista, it is broken. Okay, tá sé brista agam, I have broken it. Okay, so the she is doing the action there. So really important concept again, because a lot of stuff, English, Irish, you can't translate directly. A lot of stuff you can as well. But a lot of stuff we need to be thinking about what we're actually saying in Irish. I've talked about this example a lot of times with, let's say, to enjoy the trip. A lot of people try and say thuras and then they get stuck. But again, we don't have a verb for enjoy in Irish. We have a way of expressing it to extract enjoyment out of a trip. So therefore I need to phrase like that, to extract enjoyment, tatniv or salt, of winch, and then as on thuras. So really important concept in Irish that can help you get a lot better is remembering what you're actually saying in Irish as opposed to just what the translation is from English. 3 down, 3 to go. We're flying through them. Again, any questions, anything you feel I didn't cover, anything you're not sure of, just leave a comment down below. Guys, Iver Cahar, are your friends from Kilkenny? Are your friends from Kilkenny? Anas Kilkennig Eid the Chorja. Anas Kilkennig Eid the Chorja. Again, big philosophy at Learn Irish Online is stick with one base sentence. So let's say is as Gaeilge me, or wherever you're from. Easiest one to remember. Any person, whoever they are, whether you're talking about Trump, whether you're talking about Rihanna, whether you're talking about Paddy down the road, you'll still use the same structure for telling me where they might be from. Okay? So, is as Gaeilge me. Let's change that to is as Kilkennig me. I'm from Kilkenny. Okay, so then we need to draw on stuff from other aspects of the language. Again, all this done in the glossary, especially in the copula video, looking at the 4 different types of copula. So what if I'm naming, instead of saying I am or you are from Galway, from wherever else it might be, what if I'm saying your friends or Lionel Messi or whoever it might be is from such a place? All I'm going to do, it's the same thing as if I was saying the example. The reason I bring up Messi is because I often talk about the example of he's a footballer versus Messi is a footballer. Again, all this up in the copula video, and especially on the 4 types, the 4 categories of copula video above in the pin post, is just tagging on Messi at the end, or tagging on Paddy down the road at the end, wherever it might be. So, they are from Kilkenny, would be is as Kilkennig Eid. So your friends are from Kilkenny, is as Kilkennig Eid the Chorja. So by using a base sentence there, which you'll know from literally day 1, day 2, of learning Irish, which is as Gaeilge me. Don't be discouraged if you forgot how to say where you're from. Happens to a lot of people, because some of the most basic stuff, as in some of the stuff you learn first in Irish, is actually quite tricky in terms of the grammar of it. So if you thought, oh God, I thought it was Tá as Gaeilge, don't worry, happens to a lot of people, absolutely fine. So where were we? Is as Kilkennig Eid the Chorja. Your friends are from Kilkenny. So how do I change that to a question? All I'm doing is changing is to an on. I don't go messing with the order. That's sacred. That's nothing to do whether it's a question or a statement or past tense or whatever. I'm just changing is at the start. I can manipulate it to past tense with a bu, past tense question when near, present tense question when on, and that's the one we're going for here. So all in all, Anas Kilkennig Eid the Chorja. Anas Kilkennig Eid the Chorja. 2 CH sounds in there. So again, something for a bit more advanced learners. There's the pronunciation on the CH. I know we're not talking about speaking today, but you're going to have to speak words like this. So I made a video on the CH a few weeks ago, kind of one of the short 1 or 2 minute videos. So you might be able to find that. But again, making a sound with my throat instead of my voice box. Not a big sound. I'm not on Al Jazeera reporting in the Middle East. I don't want to do that. But instead of making it with my voice box, making it a bit more with my throat instead. So Kilkennig instead of Cannig. Cannig. Okay? And finally, the Chorja. Chorja instead of the Chorja. Okay? Every 2 weeks, so much money is spent on things that aren't needed. So much money is spent on things that aren't needed. So here, so much money is spent. We're going to be in the Sivri here. We're not trying to say here, tá agad catsa or anything like that. We're in the Sivri, the passive, like I mentioned at the start when we went through them. So it's going to be present passive is spent. All in all, the sentence, because I know a lot of people like to hear it first and then go through the breakdown. Catser on maid shin, or just on maids, arrogage. So catser on maid shin arrogage, ruddy nachwill igtastal. Catser on maid sin arrogage, ruddy nachwill igtastal. Okay, so those catser for is spent. Again, that's up the Sivri here video above. So looking at that thir or tur ending and just putting that on the root for is spent. If it was spent, it would be kahu and then kafir for the future. So catser on maid shin arrogage or on maid arrogage. On maid shin arrogage more so that much money, and here it's so much money, very slight difference. So we could say on maid arrogage, that's fine for both of them. Okay, when we're looking at the idea of that much or so many in Irish, we're saying that amount. If you made sin ibra, let's say in the welcome, I had that much work to do or so much work to do, I had that amount. That's what mage means. I can also use irid there instead of mage. Okay, if you have irid shin, or in this case, kaitser on irid shin arrogage. Notice it's arrogage as opposed to arrogant. I'm using the tishaginajuk, the genitive. Okay, so this is where it starts to get tricky. There's a lot of different stuff happening just inside the opening 5 words of the sentence there. Okay, so I'm using arrogance instead of arrogant. A lot of those words that end on a broad D, S, or T in the genitive or in the plural even, they'll change to have a slender D, S, or T. The example I've mentioned a lot of times on different shows here on the membership is the idea of bruntanis changing to bruntanish. So a little I before, that changes the sound to use the D, S, T rule. Okay, so kites are on machin arrogance, ruddy on things, same thing as English, nachwill igtastal, that aren't lacking, in other words, that aren't needed. Okay, I know need can be tricky, so remember, always use tasty or some form of tasty for need and then agiri for want. Separate them, that'll help you not get confused. I know a lot of people who do work on Duolingo start thinking tasty can mean need and want. Maybe in some cases can, and more so in Munster Irish and stuff. Just separate them, going to be a lot easier. So always remember again, one base sentence, tá isce tastal wem, I need water, so therefore tastal is like lacking. Water is lacking from me. Again, thinking about what we're actually saying. Like, tastal is not me need. Wouldn't make sense then. Tashke tastal wem. Water is needing from me. No, but water is lacking or some idea like that does kind of make sense in English. Even if we wouldn't say it, you can at least imagine it. If something is lacking from me, if I've run out of coffee here, it's lacking from me, I need some more. 5 down, 1 more to go. And for a lot of people, this will have been the trickiest one. I feel like a lot of people may be looking at number 5, thinking it's tougher. But I feel like also there'll be a lot of people who did number 6 and feel like they got it right, but missed out on 1 and 2 small things, which isn't the end of the world. Far, far from it. Again, a lot of this is shavus and tishaginajuk, which for a lot of people, especially if you're in your first year or 2 learning or relearning Irish, is far from the most important stuff. Again, I always say in Irish, with any language, get the most important stuff down. The most important stuff is obviously knowing how to put a verb in the past, present, future tense, knowing your most common 200, 300, 400 words, knowing how to understand and putting in hours in terms of listening to language so you can have a decent grip in terms of what people are saying once they're not speaking crazy fast or really dialectical stuff. And also knowing the main rules and the main, I suppose, base sentences, like I've mentioned, that's far more important than stuff like, oh, you forgot a shavu here because it's feminine, which a lot of people might have done, or you forgot a shavu here, or the wrong on or na for the genitive. So don't be worrying too much about this stuff. As you get on, you'll get more used to it. And again, think of a language like a pyramid. You want to get the base stuff, the foundation stuff first, and then work your way up. Stuff like this, again, H on a feminine noun, the tishaginajuk, and both of those are covered up in the glossary again on specific videos in terms of guides, deep dives into those topics, which will help you out if you don't quite understand them now. But that stuff is more towards the top of the pyramid. Okay, so what will the problem be at the end of the winter? It's going to be cod avai anaib ag dzera on chiri. Cod avai anaib ag dzera on chiri. You could have cod, care, the could say at the start, depending on dialect or depending on whatever you want to use. Feel free to mix and match different things from dialects. That's absolutely fine. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. You can use that at the start and then the verb to be. So calamhai, this is where it starts to get a small bit trickier. We've got problem, which is vibe, but that's feminine. And so that's going to take a H after the on. Again, that's covered in the genders and spelling changes up above. So calamhai on ibe. And then at the end of the winter. A lot of people might have said egg on, which would be incorrect because we can't have the on before those ones in the genitive. Always think of Lor and Charach, which is the centre of the city. So the centre, but we don't say on Lor in Irish. So with those ones, Lor and Charach, Tus on Tari, Zera on Ghiri, we do not have the on before. We only have the on or the na, some form of the definite article in the middle. Lor na Charach. Zera on Ghiri, Tus on Tari. Even though we have two does, let's say, two definite articles in English, the centre of the city, the start of the summer, we only have one as Gaeilge. So, ag deru, again, it's not going to be deranach, that'll be final or last, but deru for end, think dershatana, end of the week. And then the last bit on the Ghiri of the winter. So, givra without the H, so without the H sound, so givra, turning to G. So again, same thing as the CH earlier, just with the G sound making more so with the throat on G, Ri, then more of a Ri sound because of the spelling change towards the end as well. So that is it. Those are the 6 sentences. As always, guys, if you have any questions, any doubts, not sure of anything, just leave a comment down below. Hopefully you enjoyed, and again, hopefully you managed to learn a few things. Don't worry if, you're a bit more of a beginner, or even you've only been doing it for a year, 18 months, in a lot of ways in Irish, that's still a beginner, especially if you haven't learned it at school or you didn't have much experience with it at school. 4, 5 and 6 were way out of your league there and really tough. That's absolutely fine. The main thing is, do you feel like you know more now than when you started this video? If the answer is yes, good, you've made progress. Just keep on going like that in everything you watch here on the membership and from other creators and other pages. And if you're doing classes with a teacher or going to a public Gaeltachts or Circle Choros or whatever else it might be. Also, this video is going out for free on YouTube, so if you enjoyed this and want to see the other 30 episodes of Aistriú or the other 45 or so episodes of Éist Arís, the other 30 episodes of Léigh Arís, topic breakdowns as well, all the videos I mentioned up in the glossary, on Patreon, on the membership, early access and ad-free access to Gaeilge Weekly Bonus Episodes, Gaeilge Weekly, and discount codes for all of our courses over at learnirishonline.com. You can sign up as a member today for free, begin your 1 week free trial. If you don't like it, we don't want anyone paying for anything they're not going to use, so please remember to cancel it. But if you do like it, after that, it only costs €7 a month plus VAT. So, that is it for today, guys. Gur míle maigi as sa bheith féchans ar an Ísan. Gur míle maigi as ru gcuid taithíochta for your support mars chanach an so ar Patreon. Agus le mi live sa chéad agran eile de ag Aistriú. Slán go fol.